Welcome to my exhibition proposal, not just for fun exhibition, the multifaceted powers of board games. Let's get into it. First, before I dive into the exhibition, I wanted to address why I am using an automated voice for this presentation. I am a deaf individual who communicates primarily with American Sign Language, not my voice. Please be patient with me today and excuse any strange pronunciation, tones, pitches, noises, and so on. Now, let's get started for real. First, I thought it would be important to provide some background information about the fictional museum and its mission statement, which influences the exhibition's development. The Katie's Game Museum is all about games, from actual board games to card games and even video games. I highlighted a few keywords I thought you should know: general knowledge, power, beauty, diversity, acknowledgement, and education about the joy games bring us. These keywords were things that I kept in mind while developing. The bubble chart you see here is the thematic framework I created for this exhibition. There are 6 societal dimensions: politics, culture, history, pop culture, environment, economics, and controversy or injustice. The meta-narrative aims to show how board games contain hidden societal insights and messages. Some board games subtly discuss societal dimensions, and this exhibit aims to explore the games and unpack these messages. The audience would be beyond 7th grade, which works out since it is suggested to use 7th grade level writings to ensure as many people can be included. Although the general public is welcome and hopefully will enjoy the exhibit, it would especially appeal to board game. This is the basic floor plan, hand-drawn in OneNote. Since it is a game museum, I wanted the layout to be slightly complex, almost like a maze or game-like. There are 6 rooms for each societal dimension with a central hub. 4 of these rooms directly connect to the central hub, while the others do not. The size is 2,000 square feet, with varying sizes for each zone. I thought it would make sense to utilize movable walls to put them in the needed places to create divisions between the dimensions. I kept accessibility in mind while developing, so I focused on entrances, ensuring they all are much about 32 inches wide, as well as about 36 inches for turning spaces to accommodate folks using wheelchairs. Here is the 3D model of the exhibition. I used the software called Planner 5D, which is mainly used for residential purposes, but I repurposed it. For instance, I repurposed some home furniture, like dressers and projector screens, to represent display cases or textual panels. 3D models can be puzzling when looking at different angles, so I recommend looking at the entrance and the central introductory panels as a reference point. So, first, here we have the frontal view of the model. You can see the walkway into the space, and you will see this 4-panel area right there. They will serve as the introductory panels for the exhibition. I also wanted to mention the rooms connecting to the central hub again. As you can see, there are seats in the central zone. There are no seats for each room directly connecting to the central because visitors can easily walk out and sit if needed, while the other 2 rooms, as shown here, have seatings in there as there are no direct walkways to the center. Then we have the left view. The 3 rooms are the economic, environmental, and pop culture zones. As I mentioned, the dresser here is supposed to be an exhibit case, so pretend it is that. The same is true for the dresser and mirror, which are kiosks with touch screens. I will discuss each room individually later, so let's look at the other 2 views. The back view. The right view. The walls throughout the exhibition have a specific color, as colors affect the tone or mood of the area. I ensured the colors aligned with the intended mood and will specify them in a moment. I will also use a material that keeps the sounds low, enhancing visitors' experience and their ability to focus on the content or interact with one another. I have chosen to use consistent flooring throughout the space to show coherence in design. The heaviest things in this space would be the display cases, as board games and their elements are very light. Therefore, I prioritize scratch-proof flooring over the ability to hold extreme weights. I opted for wooden floors. Lighting must be considered to protect artifacts in the panels, since organic materials, such as wood and paper-based things, will be used. I think limiting the light level to 100 to 200 lux is reasonable. The plan also involves using LED light sources, as they are less damaging to museum objects. As stated by Yvonne Tang and James Brewer in the Manual of Museum Exhibitions, the exhibition contains multimedia, which will require considering video and audio. Some of them will utilize headphones to avoid disturbing others, as well as soundproof walls surrounding the screening areas to keep as much sound as possible to that area only. Everything will be accessible, too, with sign language, different languages, captions, audio descriptive, and more options for accommodating visitors. As I have mentioned a few times, the layout is complex. To make it up, I will make the textual panels very coherent throughout, meaning the sizing, hierarchy, coloring, and so on, will be the same in each room. The font may vary very slightly to accommodate the tone of the topic. Some decorative fonts would be used for the headlines or to emphasize something, while the main text will be within the sans serif font family to remain modern while prioritizing legibility. The typeface weight would depend on the needs, such as the need to emphasize, capture attention, etc. The coloring will depend on the main color of the room. The priority will always be contrast and legibility. Considering the text hierarchy, the largest text will always be the title, and the minimum size will be level 1. The following text will probably range from levels 2 to 3. Captions or accession information would be in level 4. A guideline for this exhibition would be developed, including guidelines on how to write specific grammar rules, tone, length, word choices, and more, and would be specified to ensure coherence throughout the visitor's experiences. The central hub is meant to be a place of neutrality and rest. The walls are neutral, white shades around the room, and some chairs are provided. The panels in the center will have the same information around the sides, so people can easily spread out and read. There is some spacing in the very center. If needed, it could be utilized as storage spacing, such as additional chairs. Then, the other two panels would further examine the importance of reading in between about board games. From there, you can enter one of the 4 rooms: economic, environmental, political, or controversial and injustice. Let's go to the economic zone. The number of board games shown in each room ranges from 1 to 3, and for this topic, only one would be discussed: the famous Monopoly board game. In this zone, there are 3 panel topics. First, it would study the original version of Monopoly, which was actually entitled the Landlord game, and it would show how it evolved into the current version. The case there would simply show the game board and game elements. The second panel reviews the meaning and concept of Monopoly, transitioning to the third panel, which talks about real-life examples of Monopoly and monopolized organizations, along with game examples from Monopoly. The case there would show images and newspaper articles related to real-life Monopoly examples. The wall colors in this room are gray, which signifies intellectual conversations are happening here. The concept of monopoly is also not very positive, so gray also indicates dullness. Let's walk through there. Here, we are in the environmental zone. Here, we have greenish colored walls and tree wallpaper for an accent wall to promote the environment topic. In this zone, only one board game is reviewed: CO2. The panel over there has 2 tables. The topic will be the game itself and how it raises awareness of how humans are damaging our home planet. On the tables, there would be miniature biomes, shown from the game, in both healthy and safe versions and sad, damaged versions, to amplify the whole message the game is trying to give. The panel back there will mention the sequel game, CO2, Second Chance, and ask visitors what the term second chance means. Does it mean it is too late? Have we damaged Earth beyond repair? This is a more analytical, think experiment type of topic. Lastly, there is a TV or touch screen panel here, where an environmentalist will speak with headphones, discussing points from the board game, such as saving methods and the concept of reducing damaging factors. The pop culture zone analyzes 2 games, Adversity and Funny or Die. Pop culture is always thought of as bright and energizing, so I have opted for a pop color for the walls, a fuchsia shade. For the adversity part, There is a main panel describing the game and a case with the game elements laid out. There will be 2 gamification kiosks where people get to guess where advertising content, such as slogans, came from. Then, a panel here will go into how media ties in and maybe the ethics or absurdity of advertising within our society. The other half is for Funny or Die. The large panel will discuss the game itself and then a case for the game, like adversity, but it will also point out the name. What does Funny or Die mean? Does it mean you must be funny, or will you fail in life? Thinking about social media in real life, you have to succeed in sharing content, or you will lose popularity. The panel here will examine our current photo sharing powers, which tie into the previous panel's discussion of having to be funny or know how to interact properly online. There is an interactive element here too. People will get to choose specific cards with specific messages to create funny things, almost like memes. Then, they can put it up on the bulletin board, reflect on why they find it funny, and then reflect on other people's creations. The presidential. The most powerful game in the world is the sole focus of the political zone. With a name like that, it is an absolute must to scrutinize it. What does the name indicate? Is it simply pride, or could it possibly be a nationalist attitude? These are the questions for the first main panel on the wall. Then, you might have noticed the 2 interactive areas here. They are to imitate voting booths, where people get to fill out their own cards, writing funny ways to win votes in red or blue states. A few examples are here on the slide. There is a live interpreter in this zone, a Secret Service agent, which would be funny as you aim to become the president for the game. However, acting like a Secret Service agent would not be the only role the live interpreter has, but they will monitor the cards as well to ensure they are all appropriate and not offensive. Then there is another panel with a big map of the US with game-provided cards so that visitors can analyze the tendencies of each state and the tendencies of Democrats or Republicans. To last zone is the cultural or historical zone. Here, we showcase 2 games, Freedom, the Underground Railroad and Navajo Wars. This is also the most touchy zone of all, as it contains a screening area. The screening will combine both games, as both discuss racial topics. It would be a brief, looped video from historians, community leaders, SMEs, and members of each community expressing their thoughts related to the game. The film will also include the topic of how the game creators for both are not black or members of the Diné or Navajo tribe. Beside the screening area, there is an opinion poll kiosk for people to vote after watching the film. The question would be something like, is it good or okay that games like these exist? Can or should people play them, especially those who don't belong to the communities it is about? For the Freedom game, the first introductory panel would be here, with a case showing the game and revealing different roles and elements, such as abolitionists, slave catchers, action tokens, and so on. Another panel would tackle the appropriateness of winning and the concept of escaping within the game. Is it okay to do that? Is it okay for white people to play this? Or is it too far? Or is it actually a good way to learn history? There are a lot of ethical and moral questions for these games. Lastly, for the Navajo Wars game, the panel would touch on the concept of enemy, which are the Spanish, Mexicans, white people, and others. What might the game reveal about history? What might it reveal about how the tribes dealt with it? Is it accurate? The second panel for this game is the discussion of the name. The tribe is generally known as Navajo, but they actually call themselves Diné, translated to the people in their native language. Why did the game creator opt to use Navajo rather than Diné? Finally, the final zone is the controversial or injustice zone. This is the only zone with 3 games: Cards Against Humanity, Capital Punishment, and Gitapoli. Cards Against Humanity area is pretty simple. It is over there in the corner with 2 panels explore the taboo topics raised in the game and how it tries to combat the taboo for some topics such as sexuality. The other panel talk over different ism topics, such as racism, sexism, ableism, etc. and it raises the question of, when is it too far? When is it not funny anymore? Are there any topics that should be off limits? And why? It revolves around dark humor, so that makes things difficult. Second, Capital Punishment is this unique X-shaped panel, with each corner signifying a topic. They talk about the game board and its components, crime and execution cards, justice cards, and the concept of liberals. where the player could obtain a liberal to free them. Finally, Gitopoli is a highly racist version of Monopoly. There are two cubicle-like areas. With the kiosks, there will be a screen of historians, members of the black community, and SMEs talking about different elements within the game, especially the places and game pieces that are racist and stereotypical. People's reactions to the game have been different. Some find it hysterical, while many find it plainly offensive and horrid. The perspectives will be touched on, and this is where visitors can analyze and come to their own opinion on Gitopoli. It will briefly touch on the game's creator, who also is not black, similar to the Freedom and Navajo Wars in the previous zone. The panel seen on the side wall would essentially contain a large image of the Gitopoli game board, with some information discussion about the gameplay. The shelf in between the cubicles is a tall shelf showcasing the racist game pieces, which contain a basketball, a crack rock, a pimp and a hoe, a machine gun, and more. Visitors can take a moment to view these pieces and reflect on them. So that has been the Not Just for Fun, the multifaceted powers of board games exhibition. Here are some visitor objectives, which will be used to measure success. If these objectives are met, the museum will consider their job done. The museum aims to ensure visitors understand and gain critical thinking skills the next time they play games. Visitors should gain empathy about different topics, but especially for the cultural, historical, and injustice ones. Lastly, visitors should become interested in researching or wondering about the games they have played. This can be done via post-visit surveys twice, once as an on-site survey and then as an emailed online survey a few weeks later. In conclusion, invest in this exhibition. Throughout the presentation, I have shown you how each topic aligns with our mission statement and how it will meet the needs or wants of our audiences. The impact and influence of this exhibition can be massive, as it encourages our visitors to analyze what games they have played and to understand on a deep level what their future games may be trying to tell them. It will help them understand the world they live in. Thanks for taking the time to listen to or watch my presentation. Here is my bibliography for the images and information.